So I'm just going to briefly touch on what the Unison modes do in this video. I've rendered out every mode. That's just to hear back to back what all the modes do. We're going to start with the normal ones. So there are three. The original Unison mode is now called synthetic, and what separates these first three modes is the way their phases are distributed. So hard is all phases starting at the same point. Synthetic is all phases evenly distributed, and smooth is a random distribution of phases. Okay, so the Unison controls are fairly basic. You activate it by pressing the toggle on the right. 4 is the default, but if you set it to one voice, it does nothing. Detune will change the pitch of the voices slightly, or a lot. Spread, I can't really demo that one because I'm pretty sure this video will be in mono, but it'll change the stereo width of your signal. Blend will quite literally blend in the Unison voices with the original voice. And bias changes the balance to favor certain voices. So the fourth control is called different names, but it's basically recontextualized to fit the different modes. So freak stack and pitch stack have a range, and that is basically a very heavy detune. It changes the pitch of all the voices. Same thing with frequency stack. Although they're set up a bit differently, so frequency stack is based on harmonic multiples, and pitch stack is based on octave multiples. But you can shift them around so that they cover different amounts, different intervals. Shepard is a bit different. When I demoed Shepard, I had the actual pitch of the sound going up constantly, and that was because if I didn't demo Shepard with modulation, the main function would not be obvious. The first time I tried out Shepard, I thought I had to modulate center, which actually is kind of like a balance knob or a bias knob that I touched on before. But to actually hear what Shepard does, you have to change the pitch of the sound. Now we get into the chord modes. So octaves is pretty self-explanatory. It just introduces octaves above the fundamental. Fifths is the same, but it adds in fifths, so you get less range with a bit more density. Minor creates minor triads, which is a minor third, then a fifth, and then it does the same thing up an octave. So you'll end up having almost 3 minor triads stacked on top of each other by the end. Minor 7 does the same thing, but adds a minor 7th. So you'll have 2 minor 7th chords with all 8 voices activated. And minor major 7 is a minor triad with a major 7 on top. So that one's a bit more mysterious sounding. That chord does not get used very often, but it still turns up sometimes. It's more of a jazz chord, I think. Major triad, pretty simple. It's a major third, perfect fifth, then you double a triad up, so you got your root an octave up, third, fifth. I need to just clarify something here. There's a major 7 mode, and then there's a major 7 mode. Normally you would call them what's called the major 7 a dominant 7. If I just play it with 4 voices, that's a dominant 7 chord. If I play the major 7, I actually have a major 7 chord. So the dominant 7 mode is a root, major third, fifth, minor 7th. And the major 7 is obviously root, major third, fifth, major 7. So I just got to clear that up. It might be a bit confusing. Sus2 is a type of suspension. A suspension is when you take your third and you move it to either the second or the fourth. It's not the same as suspension in a melody, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Suspended chords are fairly common, although sus2 is a bit less common than sus4. So with sus2, your third becomes your second, and with sus4, your third becomes your fourth. And as always, you have your perfect fifth with them as well. Diminished does not have a perfect fifth. It's actually 2 minor thirds stacked on top of each other. So you'll have your root, minor third, and then a tritone, which would end up being C, E flat, G flat. And then it doubles up when you add more voices. Harmonics is based on the harmonic series, so if I just set it to sine wave and 1 voice and play it, we have our root, octave, fifth, another root, major third, perfect fifth, minor 7, and another root. Obviously the harmonic series keeps going beyond that.